Hey, Shalom Akim, Shalom, Shalom. All praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders, great millstone, for teaching us his truth. Salutations to the sincere Akim and Aqua that may listen. May the blessing of election be upon your house. My name is Brother Okwai. I'm back in here with another quick and Lord's will as always an edifying lesson. And for today's lesson, I kind of wanted to go through this idea of inheritance and kind of just add my 2 cents. And I was briefly inspired by a brother out in Baltimore who did he did this as a topic. So the topic was, there is no inheritance in being black, right? But you can easily substitute that for there's no inheritance in being Hispanic, Mexican, Puerto Rican, so on and so forth. But essentially, I'm referring to the bywords that our people um, wholeheartedly cling to, as an identity, as a heritage, as a people, right? Because we have a biblical nationality, and that's what's more important, right? And knowing these things and knowing who our forefathers were, right? There is no forefather named black. There is no forefather Puerto Rican or forefather named Cherokee. These are just simply bywords that your enemy placed on you. So let me get a couple precepts. Let me get that first, just to establish that, right? This is Deuteronomy 28 verse 15, and I'll jump down to the point just to establish this. This is and it says, "But it shall come to pass, if thou would not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy power, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee." And one of them is listed in verse 37, and it says, in regards to these false identities that we cling to, and it says, "And thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb, and a byword amongst the nations, among all nations, whither the Lord shall lead thee." So part of our punishment, was we'd be calling ourselves these different false identities that we cling to today. So Haitian, Puerto Rican, Cuban, Mexican, right? And all these different nations, and even what do you call those, like the countries that we're born after. We cling to these things as an identity. Really and truly, these things are simply put, they're just bywords, they're just citizenships, right? That's all they are, right? And there is no inheritance in these different names that you call yourself. There is no father known as black. There is no father known as Puerto Rican. There is no father known as Cherokee. There is no father known as Cuban. They're just plain and simply put bywords. That's all they are, right? But Jake has essentially, like the scriptures say, we've discontinued from our heritage, right? And then part of that, we don't hold on to the name of of the Lord, but the name the Lord gave us, right? So let me go to Isaiah. This is Isaiah chapter 45, verse 4. And it says, "For Jacob my servant's sake, and Israel mine elect, I have called thee by thy name, I have surnamed thee. Thou hast not known me. I am the Lord Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, and there is none else. There is no other God. There is no God beside me. I have girded thee, though thou hast not known thee." So I went into the etymology because I wanted to get some clarity into what this word meant. What's it called? Surname. Because that's really important. Because there is no, um, like I was saying earlier, there is no inheritance in these different names. Um, so let's go back to surname. Let me just define it real quick. Okay, this is surname in the etymology online. And it says additional name. It says a name, a title, or epithet added to a person's baptismal. It says from sir. So sir means above in the Latin. And name goes into reputation. So sir or oh hold on, sir can also mean over, and then name is so when you go into the word name, it says a reputation, right? So what is the reputation of black? What is the reputation of of Hispanic? What is the reputation of Cuban or Mexican or Puerto Rican? You know, all these different bywords, essentially, none of them have a good reputation. You know, you're essentially you're not you're a people who cling to these names, and they carry a very poor reputation amongst the eyes of the other nations. You know, we're supposed to be a nation where the other nations, the heathens, are supposed to look to us as a beacon of understanding of how the earth is supposed to be governed. Essentially, in because I said that very fancy, um, we're supposed to be the trendsetters in righteousness. However, in this society, we are essentially the trendsetters in wickedness. We are not the trendsetters in how the nations are supposed to conduct themselves, right? And another thing also I wanted to add in regards to the reputation, you know, let me get it actually because I just wanted to establish the point here, then I can get a little bit into the inheritance portion. Um, okay, this is Joshua chapter 2, verse 10, and it says, for we have heard how the Lord Yahweh dried up the water of the Red Sea for you when ye came out of Egypt, and what ye did to the king of the and what ye did unto the two kings of the Amorites that were on the other side of Jordan, and Sihon and Og, whom ye utterly destroyed. And as soon as when we heard these things, our hearts did melt. Neither did there remain any more courage in any man because of you. For the Lord Yahweh, your power, He is the God of heaven and above in sorry, He is the power in heaven above and in earth beneath, right? So these heathens in this particular time, they knew and heard about the things that the Lord had did for us in Egypt, right? They knew about, they knew about that, and that carried a weight. It carried reputation. And at this point in this point, you know, we were going into the land to essentially smite those heathens, get rid of them, and then take on and then get our inheritance. And that inheritance was passed down. When you go through the book of Joshua, that inheritance was allocated to the different children of Israel, and according to their different tribes, according to their fathers, right? But Jake today is so far gone. We're essentially a fatherless nation where majority you have mostly it's our women that are running the household, and they don't know how far, they don't know their lineage and where they go back to, because part of knowing who you are is knowing that, okay, you come from a specific tribe, and then you have a set of, you have some inheritance set aside for you, right? And it was according to, because you were a descendant of Jacob, and Jacob's name was changed to Israel, and then eventually that you have an inheritance because you descend from a particular tribe. And that's what happened in the time of Joshua. The different 12 tribes were allocated, different portions of the land, and then they received an inheritance, right? So let me go to, okay, Joshua. Just bear with me on this. Hold on. Okay, this is Joshua 23, verse 4. And it says, Behold, so this is one of, okay, so the title here, it says Joshua's farewell address, right? And it says, Behold, I have divided you by lot these nations that remain to be an inheritance from your tribes, from Jordan, excuse me, with all the nations that I have cut off, even unto the great sea westward. And the Lord Yahweh, um, he shall expel them before you, and drive them out of your sight, and ye shall possess their land, as the Lord Yahweh Bashim Yahushai hath promised unto you. Be ye therefore very courageous to keep and do that is written in the law, in the book of the law of Moses, that ye turn not aside therefrom to the right hand or to the left, and that ye come not among these nations, these that remain among you, neither mention the name of their gods, nor cause them to swear by them, neither serve them, neither bow yourselves unto them. Right? So what came with knowing that you have an inheritance is knowing that there are instructions to also follow and maintain that inheritance, right? Now, you might get an Israelite, he might say, you know what, man, I could just go buy me a plot of land and, essentially, do my own farming and essentially, what's it called? They plant their own food and so on and so forth. Like, okay, but essentially you doing that, you're circumventing the importance of Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. Because what comes with knowing the Lord is that, like Joshua's admonishment, don't turn to the right side or don't turn to the left or go worship other gods, right? So you can have some abundance and some inheritance, but that inheritance can be stripped away from you if you followed, if you disobeyed the Lord's commandments, right? That's why our people's minds is really the first thing that really needs to be cleansed, right? It's not the fact that you have, an inheritance doesn't have to be just land, but I'm using land as an example. An inheritance can also be money. What Jake would do, because, and it shows in, their minds are not cleansed, is the fact that they can be blessed or, with some substance, but because our people's minds are not on the mind, because they don't have the mind of Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, they essentially will do wicked things rather than do something righteous, right? There's a scripture that says, they're wise to do evil, but to do good they have no knowledge. Let me see if I can find that. wise to do. Let me see. Okay, that's Jeremiah 4. Okay, just wanted to double check. Okay, this is Jeremiah 4, verse 22. And it says, "For my people is foolish, they have not known me. They are sottish children, they have none understanding. They are wise to do evil, but to do good they have no knowledge." Right? So you can have an Israelite that might say, "Oh, I could just, get this and get that." But if you don't have the mind of Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, all of that in substance and inheritance can be stripped away from you, right? Or another thing the Lord can easily do is also, like you have, you have a plot of land, and for example, you're worshiping other gods or whatever like that. If you have an Israelite that's doing something like that, then the Lord can pretty much, you know he sees you, trying to, plant your tomatoes, or trying to plant your your lettuce or whatever it is. And the Lord can easily, because of you doing that, the Lord can pretty much shut up the heavens. And Jake doesn't understand that, because you're dealing with a power who is omnipotent. Jake, as a woman unto the Most High, Jake essentially doesn't understand their husband. They don't understand, you know, his likes and dislikes. This is not a way you're supposed to act upon the planet Earth. You know, like a good wife, for example, knows, my husband likes this, he likes that, he likes his trousers folded this way, he likes his lunch packed that way, he don't like onions on his rice, he likes his turkey well toasted. I'm just using these things as an example, but the point is, Jake, as a nation, they don't understand their husband. They don't understand the Lord. The Lord has particular ways of how he wants you to function upon the planet Earth, right? So I just throw that out there as an example. As a matter of fact, let me see. Hold on. Let me just get another precept here. I'm kind of just, flowing right now. So just bear with me. Just bear with me. Okay, this is Deuteronomy 11. This is Deuteronomy 11, verse 11. And it says, I read it in the NLT, and it says, "Rather, the land you will go soon take over." Okay, so this is before they went into the land, right? So, um, "Rather, the land you will soon take over is a land of hills and valleys with plenty of rain, a land which the Lord Yahweh cares for. He watches over it through the season of the year. If you obey all my commands I am giving you today, and if you love the Lord your power and serve him with all your heart and soul, then he will send the rains in their proper seasons." Because these are the things you need to have to be able to care for the land. If you have substance, you need to, you need water for the soil, for your crops to grow. You need, proper grass so your cattle and your sheep and your ox and your goats can eat. You need these things, so your mind needs to be in tune with Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, and this is the thing that Jake doesn't understand. This is continuing on, and it says, "And he will send the rains in their proper seasons, the early and late rains, so you can bring in your harvest of grain, new wine, and olive oil. He will give you lush pasture land for your livestock, and you yourselves will have all that you want to eat. But be careful. Don't let your heart or your mind, right, be deceived so that you turn away from the Lord and serve other gods, right? So, you can have all these different things, but, Jake's mind is not turned away. Essentially, sorry, Jake's mind is turned away from how the instructions, the Lord has given us. And this is why Jake doesn't have an inheritance. Jake thinks that their inheritance is essentially, a pension plan, an RRSP. I got my 401k. I got $600, not $600, but they got some. You know, you might have, and honestly, you know what? You do have a lot of our people that are a lot more well off, but the point is, like, all these different things can be stripped away from you because you don't have the mind of the Lord, right? The Lord doesn't, the Lord can essentially, um, not, have it away so you can lose that substance in an instant. And that's another thing also. A lot of our people are going to face that, in Jacob's trouble. They might have a lot of material wealth, but they don't have the mind of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai, right? Because what comes with that is knowing proper conduct on the planet Earth, right? But really, the point, going back to the title of the lesson, is the fact that there is no inheritance for you, because an inheritance is essentially something that is passed down through your forefathers, right? Jake doesn't know and inquire about the ways of their forefathers. As a matter of fact, let me get two precepts. 1 second. I believe it's numbered. 1 second. It's 28. Okay, this is Numbers 26, verse 53. The point's in 55, and it says, "Unto these the land shall be divided for an inheritance, according to the number of names. And to many thou shalt give the more inheritance, and to few shall give less inheritance. To every one shall his inheritance be according to those that were numbered of him. Notwithstanding, the land shall be divided by lot, according to the names of the tribes of their fathers they shall inherit," right? So it's according to their fathers. Who is the father of Hispanic or Native American or Cherokee? The scriptures say that an ox knoweth his owner, and an ass his master's crib, but Israel doth not know. Their people don't my people don't consider, to roughly paraphrase. Jake does not consider these things, because you're supposed to have an inheritance, and you clinging onto these bywords, these cheap, low vibrational words, that doesn't come with a good reputation. It doesn't come with inheritance. It doesn't come with a culture. It doesn't come with a heritage. And Jake thinks that, when they see us on the highways and byways, it's not, it's a fad, it's a club, we're crazy or anything like that. What we want is a righteous kingdom, on upon the planet Earth, right? Because the scriptures say that the earth is given into the hands of the wicked, right? What those people are doing in the so-called Holy Land, that's they're fighting over your inheritance, right? Those so-called Arabs, those Palestinians, and the so-called Ish people, they're fighting and going warring back and forth for your inheritance, and Jake is always the last to know, right? So the point is, there is no substance. What Jake wants and clings to is really just like the scriptures talk about crumbs off the master's table, how Lazarus was eating crumbs off the rich man's table. What you have in this society is merely crumbs. This is not something you can pass on to your children. You have a piece of land, and with the mind of Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, when you get to a certain age, you essentially you can pass on some of um that land onto your children. You being a descendant of, for example, Benjamin, right? You're a son or a descendant of the tribe of Benjamin, right? And then your son is able to, he has his wife or his wives, right? And then they have their children, and then the generations continue, right? But the point is that Jake doesn't have an understanding of their forefathers, right? So there's a strong disconnect, right? There is a cheap mindset of inheritance that they cling to in this society, right? And a lot of our people, as another thing also, even though some of the wealthiest of our people, when they pass away, a lot of that money they pass away with, doesn't even go and is not even kept in their families. You know, sometimes they have outstanding debts. Sometimes the government repossesses their possessions, so they essentially their life was just like a vapor that just passes away. You know, so it's a lot more than there's a lot more to it than coming back to the Lord and observing the law, statutes, and commandments. What we want is a righteous kingdom where we actually have inheritance, for ourselves and for our children, right? That's in righteousness. That's real generational wealth. It's not just clinging on to cheap generational wealth that you can achieve through cryptocurrency or Bitcoin or Ethereum and all these different, imaginary fictitious how do you call those things, resources, right? That's not real inheritance. You have land, sheep, cattle, camels, you know and then you have slaves. That's another thing also in this society. They're known as human resources. The whole department, for people, for people who work in these companies, right? All of that is inheritance. That's true inheritance, right? But as a matter of fact, let me end off. I think I'll end off with this precept here. This is one of my favorites. Where is it? Okay, this is Wisdom of Solomon 6, verse 21. And it says, if your delight be then in thrones and scepters, O ye kings of the people, honor wisdom, that ye may reign forevermore. Verse 24, and it says, but the multitude of the wise is in the welfare of the world, and the wise king is upholding of the people, right? So there's an understanding that comes with being nigh unto Yahweh Shai, because it promotes righteousness upon the planet Earth, right? That's the vibration we want to be in. That's the whole point of the Lord dwelling with us, via the second covenant, right? You have an understanding of how to treat your own kin, your own family. You have an understanding how to treat the land, right? You can have a Jake that inherits a piece of land, but they don't know how to take care of it because they don't honor particular things, like for example a land Sabbath. The land needs rest just like you need to rest, right? That's all wisdom, right? As a matter of let me get this last one. I swear. Deuteronomy 4 verse 5, and it says, behold, I have taught you statutes and judgments, even as the Lord Yahweh my power commanded me, that ye shall do so in the land whither ye go to possess it. Keep therefore and do them, for this is your wisdom and your understanding in the sight of the nations, which shall hear these statutes and say, surely this great nation is a wise and understanding people, right? So that's what makes us trendsetters in righteousness in before the eyes of the heathen, right? They're supposed to look to you, Israelites, not to black people. The nations aren't looking at black people and looking at Hispanic people and thinking, oh, let me consult people like this guy and see if they know something. Jake, you're not seen as people to take seriously, essentially, because your own minds and your own houses are not in order, right? You want respect from them, but you don't respect the Lord. That's the real problem. You're essentially you're trying to sprint when you haven't learned to crawl yet, right? So anyways, I've rambled on long enough. I sincerely pray that this lesson was edifying. I know I was kind of all over the place, but anyways, just like to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh Bashim Al Shai. Until next time, I say Shalom.